start signing your stuff. But this has Lindy on it, so we can't give it to her tonight. Still have Lindy's name.
Yeah. Okay,
So I guess we'll have to reprint it and sign it next time.
we'll reprint it.
Okay. And then these, well, Tom was supposed to sign these. It says superintendent. So I guess, unless, doesn't say a name.
Okay. Well, they'll have to see Mr. Evans tomorrow and get him signed.
Yeah,
Okay. And these are mine.
those are yours. Sorry, I was messing with your, but you can probably give this to Barb, I guess.
I will. Yeah, and I have,
Mr. Young? Ready to go?
I'm ready.
Okay, great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is 7:01 PM. It is November 16th, 2022, and we're convening a regular meeting of the Cuyahoga Heights Schools Board of Education in the Baumgartner Auditorium. Mr. Mucci, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Decker.
Aye.
Ms. Prowse.
Here.
Mr. Souchaki.
Here.
Mrs. Etter.
Here.
Mr. Dobbins.
Here, 5 present, none absent. On behalf of the board, I would like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. The board values and encourages public comment on education issues. Anyone having an interest in the actions of the board may participate during the public comments portion of this meeting. Please identify yourself on the board sign-in sheet that I believe is in the rear of the auditorium. A copy of the board meeting agenda is available for review on our school district's website. Please silence your cell phone during the meeting, and would you now join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So may I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Souchaki moves.
Second.
Ms. Etter seconds. Is there any discussion, Mr. Muccio or Mr. Young?
Nope.
Any changes? Okay, so let's move to a vote then, please, Mr. Muccio.
Mr. Souchaki.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Mrs. Decker.
Aye.
Ms. Prowse.
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye, the motion passes 5-0. At this time, I'm moving to agenda item number 3, which is a very important and significant action tonight on behalf of the board. So I firstly want to, on behalf of the board and the district, I want to express my pleasure at welcoming Ms. Jen Decker to the Cuyahoga Heights Schools Board of Education, and I'm looking forward to the swearing-in ceremony that will follow shortly. Before we proceed, I want to take just a minute to thank all who applied for the vacancy and interviewed with the board. The district is very fortunate to have had so many talented and dedicated residents who are willing to step up and serve the district's students, staff, and residents. I also want to thank Ms. Laura Garrett and members of the administrative team for their invaluable assistance in facilitating this process. With this background, would you please join me in welcoming Ms. Decker to the Board of Education? And Mr. Muccio, would you please administer the oath to Ms. Decker? Thank you.
Mrs. Decker, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a board member of the Cuyahoga Heights Board of Education in Cuyahoga Heights, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, to the best of your abilities and in accordance with laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
At this point, I'm going to move to agenda item number 4, which is presentations, of which we have several this evening, and I'm going to pass to Mr. Young.
Okay, we are at the Students of the Month portion. I'm going to let Mr. Dietre start first with the middle school and the high school, and then I will follow him with our elementary school Students of the Month.
All right, so I always love doing this Student of the Month. Get to know a little bit more about every student come down. I interview them before we come to this event. And it's always interesting, some of the stuff that I learn. So some of the interesting things are going to be what I share with you all as they are walking down. So what I want to begin with is the Student of the Month from the senior class, Hyatt Taylor. Hyatt, would you come down? Hyatt is here with his father, Corey Taylor, who is also a teacher at our elementary school. He lives in Euclid and has two older siblings that both graduated from Cuyahoga Heights. His favorite subject is biology, and Hyatt is the co-president of marching band, the co-president of the Spanish club, the founder of the recycling club, the treasurer of the art club, the treasurer of the NHS, a member of student council, jazz band, and honors band. He also does pole vault for both indoor and outdoor track. Outside of school, he is involved in community service groups, the zoo crew, and volunteers at a vet clinic. He plans to have a career as a conservationist or scientific researcher. The teacher who nominated Wyatt had this to say: First of all, how has he not been Student of the Month before? I currently have Hyatt in my AP Biology, and he is such a dedicated and hard worker. He asks such in-depth questions after lessons that it really illustrates his level of intelligence and need for understanding. It is a breath of fresh air for the AP teacher to have him in the class. I could really tell that he is going to be very successful on the AP exam in May. He is helpful to others in the classroom and is challenged by and takes on challenging subjects and consistently has a positive attitude, even when things are hard in here. He is a great role model to his peers, and outside of class, he is involved in so much. He has successfully created the Cuyahoga Heights Recoup recycling group, and is getting the recycling up and running in our school this year. He is also the leader of the band. We congratulate Hyatt as Student of the Month for the senior class. Next, from the junior class, Jaden Coalini Hunter. She's here tonight with her grandmother, Kathleen Hunter, and she is a resident of Cuyahoga Heights and is the oldest of four. Jaden's favorite subjects are algebra and geometry. She is currently a student at CVCC, where she is enrolled in their cosmetology program. Her most memorable school experience was being on the bowling team for the past 2 years. After high school, she plans to be working in the field of real estate and owning her own salon. Here is what her nomination read: I could not be more proud of the progress that Jaden has made this year as a student. Jaden told me early in the year that she was not the same student that I taught in Algebra 1. She is off to a great start this year, and she is diligent and confident, and is one of my top students. Congratulations, Jaden. Next, from the sophomore class, Isabella Pasalacqua. Would you please come forward? Her parents are David and Vanessa, and they reside in Seven Hills with her younger sister and dog named Bernie. Isabella began attending Cuyahoga Heights at the beginning of her 9th grade year. Her favorite subject is English, and she is a member of the art club. She likes to read mystery books and plans to have a career as a nurse. When asked if she could meet anyone famous, past or present, who would it be? She answered, Adam Sandler. Here's what Isabella's teacher stated in the nomination: I would like to nominate Isabella. She is a silent leader in the class and is a role model for her fellow classmates. She works very hard and is always asking questions, and when she doesn't understand something, she raises her hand. She is respectful and kind, and whenever I interact with her, she seems to be coming out of her shell more and more each day, and is willingly answering questions in in front of the class. Congratulations, Isabella. Next, from the 9th grade, Isa Melendez. Would you please come forward? Isa is here with her mother, Monique Colon. She is a resident of Brooklyn Heights and the oldest of 5 kids. This is her second year with our district. She didn't have a favorite subject, but stated she likes all of her classes equally. Isa is in the choir, orchestra, art club, and is a new member of the high school gymnastics team. Outside of school, she likes to paint, draw, and play guitar, and read books. Her most memorable school experience was getting to start gymnastics this year. She plans to become a pediatrician. Here's what her teacher wrote. I would like to nominate Isa for Student of the Month. She is very respectful and a kind student and is highly dedicated to school and her own success. She is highly deserving of the recognition among her peers and even among this wonderful group that she is part of in the 9th grade. Congratulations, Isa. From the 8th grade, Raven Rhea. Raven is here with her mother, Pam Schott, and she has been a student of Cuyahoga Heights since 1st grade. She and her family are residents of Valley View. Raven told me that she has 4 pets, 1 dog, 2 cats, and an axolotl. Axolotl. I had to look this up. So if you don't know what an axolotl is, it's kind of a cross between a salamander and a frog. It lives in the water, and it's got horns. Really, I had to look it up right then. But it is cute to me. Her favorite subject is choir, and she is a member of the art club, choir, and plans to audition for the school musical. Outside of school, she can be found drawing, playing an electric guitar, or writing her own music. Something that people may not know about Raven is that she's really good at special effects makeup, and she is often asked to do people's makeup or friends' makeup during the Halloween season. Here's what Raven's teacher had to say. Raven Rhea is the 8th grade student, deserves to be the 8th grade student of the month. She is always showing generosity to her classmates by allowing them to use her computer charger and personal school supplies when another is in need. Many times she is not asked, but offers out of pure kindness. Raven's teachers have also noticed a positive improvement from last year in terms of motivation and her work ethic. Congratulations, Raven. We are very proud of you. Next, from the 7th grade, Paige Stoltz. Would you come forward? Paige is here with her parents, Rick and Lynn. They are residents of Brooklyn Heights, and she has 3 other siblings, one of which is a twin. Like me, Paige is new to the district this year. This is her first year at Cuyahoga Heights. Paige's favorite class in school is science, and she plays volleyball and basketball for the school and is a member of the choir. Outside of school, she participates in softball. Paige enjoys cooking and wants to become a cosmetologist. Here's what Paige's teachers had to say. Paige has exemplified the qualities of generosity and kindness during her first few months at Cuyahoga Heights Middle School. She is quick to offer assistance to classmates and staff. She has a positive attitude towards learning and is always quick with a kind word. We are lucky to have Paige on our team. Congratulations, Paige. Now from the 6th grade class, Kylie Todd Coaches. All right, so Kylie's parents are Krista and Richard Todd. She is the oldest of 2 children, and she has several family who are alumni. Both of her aunts graduated from Cuyahoga Heights High School. She has her favorite stuff. She has 2 dogs. One is a German Shepherd puppy, which she said is going to grow to be very large, and is a bundle of energy. Her favorite subject is math, and she is a member of the school's choir. Outside of school, she plays soccer year-round on both an indoor and outdoor team. Her most memorable school experience was the band showing up every Friday to play during convocation. And someday, she hopes to become a doctor. Here's what Kylie's teachers had to say. She is always generous with her time in helping her classmates, regardless of if it was cleaning up materials, helping with project content, or just giving friendly advice. She's always modeling appropriate behavior in class. Congratulations, Kylie.
If you guys can just hold tight, we've got 2 more students, and we're going to get a photo of the group of you together. So, good evening, I'm Mr. Young. I'm here to announce our 5th grade Students of the Month. We only recognize 1 grade level each month at the elementary school, and I'm very fortunate to have interviewed 2 outstanding 5th graders. So, Bella Cimarelli, come on down, and Anthony Boggs. Who goes first? Bella goes first. Okay. All right, this is Bella Cimarelli, everybody. She is a 5th grader who lives in Seven Hills. She has a whole gang of people with her tonight, don't you? Who's here? I am, okay. There's I am. Is that Anthony? All right, that's brother Anthony. He's in the high school. Who else is here? Okay, so brother Joey is here, and then your dad Joe. Mom Stacy's not here. You got grandma and grandpa? It's always great to meet grandmas and grandpas. They're always good for ice cream afterwards, too. Bella has 2 pets, 2 dogs, right? Sadie and Lucy. Her favorite subject is reading because she's really good at it. Her favorite book is Harper and the Scarlet Umbrella, correct? I asked her if she knows any good reading jokes. She says there's just no good jokes about reading out there, so we just went on. Her favorite essential is gym because she's good at that too. She also likes library because there's a lot of books and she likes reading. Outside of school, she participates in track and field. She says she is going to be a distance runner. She also likes swimming at her pool when it is open. Is it open? No, not open. Okay, probably good. When she grows up, she either wants to be a veterinarian or she wants to go into banking like her mother. I said, what type of banking does Mom do? She says, well, I don't know. She just helps people make decisions and money and stuff like that. So sounds great to me. So where are you going to go to college to do these things? She says, Penn State University. So out-of-state tuition is coming your way, Mom and Dad, so that banking is going to pay off. Message to her parents. She says, thank you for always being there for me. I love you. Okay. She was nominated by her encore teachers, Mrs. Russell, Ms. Castle, Mrs. Bergen, Mrs. Curry, who's here tonight, and Mr. Miller, there in the back. They say that Bella has been a wonderful addition to CHES. She tackles new challenges seriously, eagerly, and with a positive attitude. Bella shows perseverance in all that she does. She has a kind, caring, and friendly attitude that makes her a friend to all. Bella consistently makes good choices in all parts of the school day. It has been a pleasure having the opportunity to get to know and work with such a fantastic person, classmate, and student. Way to represent CHES. Bella. Congratulations. Slide over. Just keep on going. All right, fantastic. So this is Anthony Boggs, also a fifth grader. Anthony lives in two places. He lives in Parma sometimes with Dad and Maple Heights with Mom. Are they here tonight? Yes? Okay, right there. I see we got Dad Matthew. I see we got Mom Marta. I don't see Sister Julia. Is she here? No, but you did bring Grandma? Okay, again, Grandma, ice cream afterwards, right? Pets, lots of pets, just like Raven. Dog Sadie, a cat Checkers, a cat Bruno, and a cat Stripes. No mice, but a lot of cats. Favorite subject is mathematics because my teacher is really good at teaching it, which makes it my favorite subject of the day. You know where your teacher is? Where is he? He's sitting right there, Mr. Taylor. How fantastic. What a great compliment. He says he does have a math joke. He says, do you know why 6 is afraid of 7? He said because 7, 8, 9. Fantastic. Love it. Favorite essential is art because you can do anything you want and no one will judge you for it. French is really cool too. Probably can speak some words that I don't understand, and it's always good to have another language in your back pocket. Outside of school, he likes to play with neighborhood friends and also likes to swim in his pool when it's open. Is yours still open? No, not at all. When he grows up, he wants to be an actor. And I said, what kind of actor? He says, I don't know, I'll do anything. I just want a job. So, where are you going to go to school to be an actor? He says, I don't know any good acting colleges. Do you have any suggestions? And I told him, well, you know, I had a former student, Carrie Coon. Carrie Coon was in the Avengers, of all things, at Copley. She went to Mount Union, so maybe Mount Union would be a good choice for you because it really worked out for her. Anyways, message to parents, thank you for supporting me my whole life, and I love you very much. His Encore teachers say about Anthony, he is an extremely caring person. He is always willing to help anyone with anything. Anthony works very hard on his schoolwork, is an enthusiastic learner. He has the ability to brighten up any classroom he enters. He is polite to adults and peers in and out of the classroom. Anthony consistently makes good choices in all parts of the school day. We can always count on Anthony to be caring, honest, engaged, and safe. Anthony Boggs. Okay, next I'm going to turn it right back over to Mr. Dietrich, who is going to introduce 2 of our brand new Eagle Scouts. It really is amazing. Mr. Evans always talks about this. You know, I've had a connection with the school district for 8 years, and I think we've had no less than a dozen, if not more, Eagle Scouts come through Cuyahoga Heights. And to be such a small school district and to have these fine individuals committed to community, committed to service, committed to something bigger than themselves that they'll take with them for the rest of their life is really special. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dietrich to announce these 2 outstanding individuals.
That's exactly right, Mr. Young. You know, these students are tonight going to be recognized for their achievement at the rank of Eagle Scout. They participated in 2 separate troops. They had 2 different pathways in which they got there. But this program requires a great amount of perseverance and determination. They told me it takes basically 8 years to complete all of the tasks to get to this point in their careers here. It does require a constant commitment to serving your community, and the amount of leadership opportunity and practice is tremendous as well, so it's been a great opportunity for them. I want to invite Sam Wheelock up first. Come on up. Sam is here with his mother Mary and father Adam. He's a resident of Brooklyn Heights, and someday he aspires to become a physician. I've asked Sam to go ahead and talk a little bit about what his service project was that earned him his rank with Eagle Scout.
Thank you, Mr. Dietrich. So, when I was little, I always was really fond of reading stories, and I was lucky enough to have 2 parents that were able to get me to the library whenever I basically needed them to. But that's not true for a lot of people, and they don't have the chance to actually get there, and if they want to read things, they might not be able to. So what I decided to do was to build a little free library around the Brooklyn Heights Community Center so that anyone that really wanted to go get a book at any time could. So, yeah, that's basically it.
Oh, that's nice.
It's great.
Very good.
Congratulations, Sam. Next, can I have Jacob Casey come to the front? Jacob is here with his parents, Shane and Dawn. He is also a resident of Brooklyn Heights, and he aspires to have a career in finance someday. I've asked also Jacob to give us a little synopsis of what his service project was.
In the village of Brooklyn Heights, there's a gazebo by the police station that was needing refurbishing. So thanks to the funding from the city of Brooklyn Heights and the support from Frank Trousseau and Ray Berzins and my fellow scouts, I pressure washed and stained the gazebo by the police station.
Very good.
Congratulations. I have gone to ceremonies before as an Eagle Scout earns their rank in front of their friends and family, and one of the things that stands out to me is of all the people who start down this path, only about 4% of the people who start this path actually complete it. So congratulations, guys.
Yes.
At this time, can we do a photo op with?
Absolutely. Let's get the kids, and then we've got staff spotlight next.
Yeah, do the photo first? Or
Let's
second?
do the photo of the kids, and then we're going to do staff spotlight. Go ahead.
All right, so students, we're going to kind of bring us over here, and parents, feel free to come down and capture a group photo as well.
Are we joining the month?
Want us to do this photo or
We
no?
did last time.
Last time.
Yeah, we
time
did
joined.
last
You want
month.
us-
Do you want us in the photo this time or not?
I think you should be in a
Yeah,
photo.
okay.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, I think so.
Definitely.
Parents, feel free to step in.
Mr.
Staff spotlight?
Yes, please. So agenda item number 5, our staff spotlight for this month. Mr. Young?
Yes, this is the motion to approve this staff spotlight resolution for November 16th of 2022.
So moved.
Second? Are we going to move it second and vote now?
Comment, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Say who it
Resolution.
is.
All right, so comments here. This is from Mr. Marcinick. He nominated elementary school teacher, Mrs. Barb Curry. So Barb, could you please stand up? How many of you in the room have had Mrs. Curry as a teacher? All right, that's a lot of students of the month that have had Mrs. Curry as a teacher, and I'm sure you had influence on those students. All right, so if I can read the resolution. It says, whereas the Cuyahoga Heights School District has been fortunate to have dedicated staff committed to the mission of the district, and whereas Barb Curry is always on a mission with a spring in her step and a smile on her face, and whereas Barb Curry comes to work each day with a level of excitement and enthusiasm that goes beyond her classroom and is evident to all who come into contact with her, and whereas Barb Curry's love of science and her ability to positively engage her students is no less than remarkable, and whereas Barb Curry's passion for science is visibly infectious as her students become utterly excited about coming to science class to participate in learning, and whereas Barb Curry is the epitome of an extraordinary and well-loved teacher who has no doubt left an indelible mark, and therefore, be it resolved that the Cuyahoga Heights Board of Education congratulates Barb Curry on her November 16th, 2022 selection to the Cuyahoga Heights Schools Staff Spotlight.
Say, kids, I understand how you feel coming up here. I wonder if anybody was nervous. Anybody nervous? Because I'm sitting there thinking, are my feet going to be asleep and I'm not going to be able to walk up when I need to?
Everybody give Mrs. Curry.
Thank you for all that you do, Mrs. Curry, and congratulations. Thank you. We appreciate it. Mr. Mucho, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Souchaki?
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins?
Aye.
Mrs. Decker?
Aye.
Ms. Prowse?
Aye.
And Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Congratulations and a thanks again for all that you do. We appreciate it. I'm looking at agenda item number 6 now, comments from the public. No one has signed in, so I'm going to move on to agenda item 7, and that would be the treasurer's business.
Do we want to take a 5-minute recess
let's
to
do
allow
Sure.
students of the month to take off for more exciting things?
Homework and ice cream, right?
That's right, homework and ice
Or ice
cream.
cream and homework.
Whichever comes first.
Yeah.
The little kid's so cool.
We're gonna be one short.
Jen has one, too.
Oh, she already has one. Never mind. Of course.
Are there more copies, or is that
You're on
it?
top of it.
No, I don't know. Did you need one?
Jen has a copy already.
What about Mark?
My 5-year forecast in my other
Oh,
bag.
we
That's
are
okay.
one short.
That's all right,
I
we
can
can
do
share
that.
if we
Yeah,
need
we
to.
can share.
No big deal. Okay.
I work in communication.
Oh, you have another one?
I don't know. They said to pass it. Yes? No?
No,
Do you need a copy?
no, Mark and I
We
will
can share. Okay. Thank you.
Well, do we have an extra one? We have enough.
Oh, there it is, okay.
We're falling apart today, guys.
I was like,
Some things are just so difficult.
I was in the middle there going back and forth, back and forth.
We're all just way too polite.
I didn't know that was Mr. Miller.
Better that than the opposite.
Full night ice cream.
Yeah,
We've been
really.
there.
Okay, so we can move back to the agenda, and agenda item number 7, Treasurer's Business, Mr. Muccio.
Thank you, Mr. Dobbins. Just a couple items tonight for approval. First item, 7A, approval of minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of the November 2nd, 2022 regular meeting as found in attachment T1. Item 8A, motion to adopt the recommended 5-year forecast, which consists of 3 years of historical data, projections for the current year, and 4 ensuing years, and a summary of key assumptions as found in attachment T2. Item 8B, motion to approve new vendors to the school district per W-9s attached as found in attachment T3. Item 8C, motion to accept the settlement agreement with Omega Valley View LLC and Nat Charlotte LLC as found in attachment T4. And item 8D, motion to accept the settlement agreement with Center Valley Business Park as found in attachment T5. I ask for those motions for approval tonight.
Thank you. So may I have a motion to approve the treasurer's consent agenda items, please?
So moved.
Mr. Souceki moves.
Second.
Ms. Etter seconds. Is there any discussion, Mr. Muccio?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base on a couple of the items. Let me skip the 5-year forecast, I'll come back to that one. For 8B, new vendors, we just have 3. The first new vendor to the district would be Buckeye Blue Enterprise of Solon, which is doing business as Young Chefs Academy of Solon. That's for a field trip for the elementary school for culinary class. It's about $700 for the year. Number 2, Toe Lift Incorporated, that's for equipment sales and repairs out of the general fund, about $5,000 for the year. And number 3, Main Event Entertainment, that's for the senior class luncheon in Avon. It's about $5,000 estimated for the year for those new vendors. We have 2 settlement agreements. Our legal counsel that we approve every year at the organizational meeting in January, which handles our property tax issues. David Seed had been working on 2 settlement agreements, and if we were to click on 8C and look in the admin content for Omega compensation payment, so that says, enclosed, please find the compensation payment for tax year 2021, approximately $40,000. A similar payment is due for tax years 22 and 23, which are due on or before March 15th, 2023, and March 15th, 2024. So we have 2 more payments of approximately $40,000 coming from this settlement agreement. We received the first one, so 3 in total. And if we go to 8D, same thing. If we click on the admin content, Center Valley compensation payment, we can see that the enclosed payment for tax year 2021, $30,000 was received, and we have similar payments coming for tax years 22 and 23, on or before September 1st, 2023, and September 1st, 2024. So $30,000 coming in 2 more payments to the school district for that settlement agreement. And again, David Seed has wide discretion from the organizational meeting to work on these settlement agreements on behalf of the school district. And very well-versed and many years of experience working on those, so we're in very good hands with Mr. Seed. Circling back to item 8A, we have the forecast here for all. We went over it pretty thoroughly at the last board meeting that we had. Just wanted to take maybe a minute or two, very, very high level, and just kind of go through the forecast row by row. So the first row, general property tax revenue, 1.010. The real driver for that line is going to be collection percentage. So we can see that the revenue that we have coming in is basically the same every year for that line. Again, it's going to be stagnant. There's not going to be much movement. If anything, it's going to be dependent on collection percentage. Now, if we have any new levies, that were to get passed, it would fulfill that line with more revenue that we would have. And we know Cuyahoga Heights Schools is one of the lowest tax rates in Cuyahoga County, if not the lowest, at 35. And we've had that for about 10 years, that low tax rate, 35 here in the district. The second line, right below it, tangible personal property tax. That driver is going to be valuation that we see on that line. So we know our valuation has been going up pretty significantly on that line. The more it goes up, the more revenue, and hopefully what we receive from Cuyahoga County is going to be true. So when I get all excited that we're going to have $1 million windfall, it's actually real, and it's not just them coming out with incorrect numbers. So, but again, I'm going to wait about a week just to see if anything changes before I start, celebrating on that. So, the next two lines would be unrestricted and restricted state aid. That's coming from the state of Ohio. So when they pass HB 110 or any new funding models coming from Columbus, we're going to see revenue on those lines. How it works would be within biennial budgets. So every 2 years, the governor or legislature, they come out with their bills on funding education for Ohio, K through 12, and we see how it comes to us. There have been a lot of changes over the years with the funding models. 1 year they go one way, and a couple of years later they go another way. A couple of years from then they go a different way, then they circle back to the original way. So it seems like it's an interesting pattern, but we'll see if there's any significant increases on the horizon. I'm not necessarily forecasting it. I'm kind of conservative in that respect, but we're hopeful. After those two lines, we see property tax allocation. On that line, we have the homesteading credits as well as the phase-out of tangible personal property, TPP. So that's the TPP phase-out. That's why that line's going down about 200,000 or so each year. That's significant in our forecast because that's where we're losing revenue in that line that we have, that TPP phase-out. Underneath that line, all other revenues, the main driver for that line is our tuition program that we have here at the district. And we receive more in tuition for less students than we receive from the state for state aid with more students. So less students, more money, tuition, more students, less money, state of Ohio. Interesting. If we hop to our expenditures, personnel services, we see that that goes up, cost of living adjustments that we would see from staff, as well as the collective bargaining agreements go in that line. Below that, retirement and insurance benefits. We're pretty conservative in the forecast to measure insurance increases, approximately 12% per year. I have seen a district go up 25% in 1 year, which is the highest I've ever seen personally. Ours was 6.7%, but we also have, people going from single status to family status, as well as hopping on insurance for the first time. So, as well as retirement. So as salaries increase, retirement contributions from the employer side increases as well. So those are the two drivers, really, that makes up that line that we have there. The next one, purchase services. This is typical expenditures that we would see from the general fund dealing with purchase services. So whenever we have to go out for, curriculum items that we would see services there, repairs and maintenance, legal costs, utilities, outplacement of students, everything wrapped up in purchase services goes on that line. And we can see savings. We can try to get savings by going, competitively bidding through different vendors and whatnot, but it seems like inflation's just raising the cost for everything on that line that we see. Underneath that, supplies and materials, again, similar circumstances, expenditures out of the general fund. Think textbooks, general supplies for students, software that we have, supplies for the maintenance staff. If we have any ceiling tiles in here that need to be replaced or any lights that need to be fixed, we come from that line. Below that, capital outlay, we just have it flatline at $150,000 for equipment, large ticket items that we see. The very last line for expenditures, other objects, the main driver is going to be the dues that we have to pay for our property taxes to Cuyahoga County of Ohio. So that's the significant driver there, as well as audit costs that would come out of that line. We do have some transfers out below that, line 5.010, and those go to food service, athletics, and anything that would be needed for set-asides for the permanent improvement fund that we have. And we can see line 6.010. This is whether we're having a surplus, so more revenues than expenditures, or vice versa, and we would see a deficit. Historically, we've had surpluses, so we've been very well with our managing the funds that we have here for the district. And we've had it, I want to say approximately 8 years, maybe more. So a very good history that we have here, especially with all the economic factors that have been coming down, COVID, inflation, you name it. Now on the horizon, we do have deficits, but again, that's very conservative from the 5-year forecast, so we just have to be very mindful with this roadmap, what the future holds and, how we would best kind of navigate those situations that arise. So we can see the bottom line where we're at, and we look at other forecasts, with their bottom lines when they put levies on the ballot, Rocky River, Parma, North Olmsted, Olmsted Falls, Fairview Park, many other school districts, just kind of looking at their forecasts and seeing, okay, as they also run a deficit, when are other schools putting levies on? What are they going for? Is it, just general operating money? Is it a combined levy? Is it, combined with, let's say, permanent improvements in general fund? Or is it a bond issue, as Parma did with the very high bond issue that they had? So, again, we have that 5th year with a negative, but, 5 years out, it's very hard to predict. If I were to look back 5 years, I don't think there's any way I would have predicted, all that would have transpired within those 5 years. So a whole pandemic happened. So, we'll take it one step at a time. Our forecast is very, favorable with past history. We have a high cash balance in respect to many other school districts in the county. But we just have to be very mindful of the situations ahead and kind of what this shows us. Deficit spending for loss in revenue, stagnant revenue, as well as inflation, insurance costs that could go up, and cost of living increases and collective bargaining agreements that we have. Any questions?
As a procedural, thank you, Mr. Muccio, but as a procedural matter, I should have prefaced this introduction by noting that Ms. Deca hasn't had a chance to get really up to speed on some of these things. I'm not saying she hasn't, I'm just saying that we just swore in about a half hour ago. So we have a consent agenda motion pending, which if we were to vote as a group, we can adopt or approve all of these subsidiary motions that Mr. Muccio has discussed, or we can pull off one by one any of these items if you are uncomfortable with having to act on any of these. And of course, you could abstain as well. So I just wanted to kind of cover that ground so that if you wanted us to pull any of these items, or if you wanted to ask any of these items be removed from the consent agenda, we could do so, and we could consider them separately. Do you have a preference? I know you've had a lot of information thrown at you this evening.
I know I have this document here to read too, for that.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to look at that.
Of course.
I feel like I would abstain today.
Okay, so you're comfortable abstaining on the consent agenda motion that we're considering, but I'm more than happy, given the unique circumstances here, to pull off one by one items, but you're comfortable with an abstention then on the overall consent agenda motion? Okay, very good. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Muccio, but thank you for that presentation and the overview. Is there any other discussion or questions for Mr. Muccio?
No.
Okay, so we could move to a vote then, please.
Mr. Souchaki?
Aye.
Mrs. Etter?
Aye.
Ms. Prowse?
Aye.
And Mr. Dobbins?
Aye.
With an abstention.
Ms. Decker?
Yes.
Abstain. So the motion passes 4-0 with one abstention.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Muccio. I didn't see anything here for treasurer's comments, but Mr. Muccio, do you have any other comments or discussion items?
Just nothing really, except we had a great time the past couple days at Capitol Conference. So it went very quick.
It sure did.
Came back here and hit the ground running with all the work that's out there, so. But
Thank
it was
you.
a fun time.
Thank you. So we can move to agenda item number 10. Mr. Young, please, superintendent's business.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dobbins. Item 10A, motion to approve the disposition of class funds for the class of 2012 per board policy 6610.01 in the amount of $1,466.10 to be used for their 10th class reunion to be held November of 2022. Item 10B, motion to adopt the revised miscellaneous pay rate 2022-23 schedule as found in the attachment. Item 11A, motion to accept the adjusted resignation date of Kara Kovich as elementary secretary effective December 22nd, 2022. Item 11B, motion to accept the resignation of Kara Kovich as substitute caller effective December 22nd, 2022. And 11C, motion to accept the resignation of Kara Kovich as elementary memory book advisor, 1/2 contract, effective December 22nd, 2022. Item 11D, motion to accept the resignation of Grace Brown as musical director for the middle school and high school. Item 12A, resolved that the superintendent hereby appoints Jay Kiefer as a long-term substitute administrator during the 2022-23 school year for the superintendent and treasurer to execute a written contract upon such terms and conditions as have been agreed upon for the approval at a future board meeting and contingent upon successful completion of the BCI FBI background record checks and proper certification if applicable. Item 13A, motion to approve an extension to the internship of Logan Dietrich through the end of the 2022-2023 school year. 13B, motion to approve the attached supplemental position contract list for chat as updated for 11/16/2022 for the 22-23 school year, contingent on successful completion of the BCI FBI checks and proper certification if applicable. Item 13C, motion to approve the adjustment of Don Zork's supplemental position as memory book advisor from half contract to full contract, effective after December 22nd, 2022. Item 14A, motion to approve the employment of Kathy Dietzel as a substitute secretary per the miscellaneous pay rate schedule for the 2022-23 school year. Item 15A, motion to accept the revised 2022-23 personnel cost analysis sheet with the ESC of Northeast Ohio to reflect an adjustment to the salary schedule for an educational aide. Please see the attachment. And item 15B, motion to approve an agreement with Main Event Entertainment Incorporated for the senior class of 2023, luncheon to be held May 25th, 2023, at a cost of $3,340.02. I ask for all of these items to be considered for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Young. And with the same caveats we had before, Ms. Decker, I'll offer to you that if there's anything here on this series of motions that you would like to have a discussion on, we can pull those off and consider those. Otherwise, I think that what we would do is propose to move forward with a consent agenda motion that would allow everything to be considered in totality. So,
I was able to see the agenda online and pull off the attachments earlier this week,
Good.
and so I did review them, and I feel comfortable.
okay, all right. Well, then, with that background, then can I have a motion for approval of the superintendent's consent agenda items, please?
So moved.
Mr. Suchaki moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Prowse seconds. Is there a discussion, Mr. Young?
Sure. I'll go through these items. For 10A, the disposition of class funds for the class of 2012, this is not uncommon for classes to have carryover balances. While Mr. Muccio would love to see $0 at the end of a class, it's not uncommon to have those repurposed for things like this or dedications that you may see around a school district. So that's for the class of 2012. Congratulations on making it to 20 years. 30 will come faster than you think.
They're only at 10. though.
10.
Oh, did I say 30? Yeah, they're
I
at
said
10.
20.
20, oh my gosh, well, there you go. It's been that kind of day. On the miscellaneous pay schedule, if you look at the attachment, we've highlighted in yellow the change here. We did not have a rate for a substitute secretary, and we collaborated with Mr. Muccio, Mr. Evans, myself, Mrs. Deal, on what a reasonable rate would be, and that's set at $13.75 per hour to be competitive. For Karakovich's items, that had originally been effective in the first week of January, basically when we came back from winter break. But actually, that would carry over into a different financial year, right? You carry over into 2023, and there were some adjustments that she wanted to make from a financial standpoint that made more sense to just be done in December. So with that change in resignation, she also had 2 supplementals. That was the substitute caller, which the other half is held by Mrs. Connors in the high school. So whoever the new secretary will be will assume that supplemental position, and we'll do that approval later on. And then the memory book advisor for one half of the contract. Later on, you saw that that other half now will go to Mrs. Zork, who had already been 50%. She'll now assume 100%. The resignation of Grace Brown as the musical director, this is a supplemental position. This is not her teaching position. I spoke to Mr. Dietre. He had actually assigned 2 people to the same supplemental by not having any prior institutional knowledge how this worked. So Mr. Hamrick and Mrs. Brown would have split that supplemental when actually there are 2 supplementals out there, and they each could have been assigned one. And that's what you'll see in the attached supplemental position for the chat agreement. You'll see that Mrs. Brown is actually shifting over to a different supplemental at 100% of that contract. A little confusing, but 50-50 is not as good as 100-100. So that's the way that has worked out. With Mr. Kiefer, Mr. Evans has had conversations, and I know a contract agreement is forthcoming for long-term substitute administrator position throughout the district. So more details are to come, and the board will have a chance to review that and then approve that contract. Similar to what we did with Mr. Moore when we secured him back in April and then came back in May and approved his contract. Mr. Dietrich, it's crazy calling him Mr. Dietrich. He was a student when I was here as principal. Logan has been a third member of our IT department as an intern, student intern, and you can see Mr. Moore's recommendation. Do you have anything you want to add about the value he has brought to the department? There was only 2, and the number of things we're able to do now with just that one extra body up there.
Absolutely. Logan Dietrich, I can't express enough the value that he's added to our department. He is our frontline person where if students have any issues, they're most likely dealing with Mr. Dietrich. Same thing with staff. His personality has been steady, and that comes into play when it comes to dealing with students that are in crisis mode, or maybe faculty or staff that are in crisis mode. His even keel has been a delight to the staff and faculty. In fact, a lot of people have come to my office to express how much they enjoy working with Mr. Dietrich, and they told me to do everything in my power to keep him with us. He takes direction very well. He's consistent. He's been completing about 1/3 of the break it, fix it tickets that come in. Those tickets that come in stay fixed. There's no complaints of, hey, this is still broken, this isn't right. It's done the right way. So I can't recommend enough how essential Logan is to this district. The worry of not having him around reverts us back to a 2-person staff, and being part of a 2-person staff in my history and the history of the district, we become more of instead of a preventative, we're just fixing and breaking it and going through those type of things versus the long-term planning. We've had a lot of meetings about the long-term vision of the district and some things that really need to get done. Without Logan, those things don't get done. We're just in a preventative mode. So it's a pleasure having him, and hopefully we'll have him with us for a long time.
And again, this is and thank you, Mr. Moore, for that. He is a student or intern right now, college student intern, so to speak. So we're looking to see what the wants and the needs of the district are. Mr. Muccio talks about that, and he's definitely been a benefit. And we know this year with the E-rate work you're going to be doing, we're talking about overhauling our entire wireless infrastructure, our switches. It's going to be a major responsibility for you, and then Mr. Hartman being able to work on the instructional technology side more focused has been very beneficial. So thank you for that.
Is this a paid internship or just college credit?
No, he's being paid per I believe we have a miscellaneous pay schedule amount for that so that we have an ability to account for it. So he's he's not making as much as a regular employee, but he's making more than a summer worker would. And that amount, you have that right there? Even with glasses, Mr. Muccio, I can't see it, but it's on the miscellaneous pay schedule there. Item number 14, he's making $13 per hour.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The adjusted supplemental positions, you're going to see Mrs. Brown as the artistic play director for a full contract. You're going to see Ms. Castle on the principal-initiated club advisor. That's for French Club. When we added French, we now have an interest in French Club. Ironically, we had stricken that from the contract a couple years ago because we no longer had a French teacher, and lo and behold, we added a French teacher. And so this allowed us some flexibility to add back a principal-initiated club. So thank you for doing that. I know the interest is there. And then you see Mrs. Zork assuming the full memory book advisor supplemental. With respect to Kathy Dietzel, we're doing a lot of our substitute hiring right here through the district because we have the ability to do the background checks here. So she is interested in spot subbing, just like a grandparent. You can love your child and then send them home when you're tired of them. Well, she loves being a secretary on her terms, and so she can pick and choose. But now we at least have one person that can sub, and then we have a miscellaneous pay schedule rate now to pay her. The cost analysis, personnel cost analysis sheet with the ESC. If you open the one attachment, you will see that we have an educational aide who, it's in red, highlighted in red, that was on step 6. We adjusted that to step 7 of the ESC salary schedule. The difference in cost of that for the year is $1,181.77. So not a huge increase for that employee, but nonetheless, we made the adjustment on that pay schedule. 15B, that is the senior class week, which always happens that last week of May, right before graduation. We have traditionally, really for the past 7 years minus COVID, gone to Dave & Buster's, and even before that. And so the advisors have found a different place they would like to go to have our seniors have a fun event and land the plane gently right before they get out of here for graduation. So Mr. Muccio, I think, had them as a new vendor at the beginning of the meeting, and then this is the agreement as well as the requisition that goes with that. Gosh, I think I got through it all right there. So that's it for those items.
Very good. Thank you for that presentation or those comments. Are there any other questions for Mr. Young about the superintendent's agenda items?
That event that they do, is that through their class funds?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, yep, senior class funds. That's a great point. They fundraise from the time they come over here as freshmen, and anything that's left over, their 10th reunion, they may come back and want to do a celebration, their 10th reunion, but.
True.
Maybe their 20th, depends on which one.
Yeah, it could be their 20th. Yep, that's right.
Dad's worst nightmare.
Thank you. So if there's no further comments or questions, we can move to a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Suchaki?
Aye.
Ms. Prowse?
Aye.
Mrs. Decker?
Aye.
Mrs. Etter?
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins?
Aye, the motion passes 5-0. Agenda item 17, superintendent's discussion comments. Mr. Young, any additional?
Well, Mr. Evans didn't leave me with anything, but I do have a couple of items. With our with the football team's loss last weekend, that finally ended our fall season. It's just so we take these things for granted sometimes, that you just make the playoffs and then you make a deep run into it. And I always say it's easier to go 0-10 than it is to go 10-0. And sometimes we take for granted how amazing all of our programs are here, whether it's our football team and coaches and their families, or the cheerleaders, the band, the Red Rubies, the volleyball team, cross-country team, golf team. All of the programs that we have in the fall, they just do such a great job, and a lot of that work starts in June. So you figure from June all the way now until almost Thanksgiving, we are finally transitioning to winter sports. So congratulations to all those coaches, their athletes, the participants and their families, and the fans, because we can't do it without the fans too. We have our first BEST committee meeting of the year is going to be tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock in the Media Center. I know that's going to become a vital instrument for us talking about some of the financial pieces that Mr. Muccio has built into the 5-year forecast, especially with facilities, as is going to be a focus Mr. Evans has. We do not have school tomorrow or Friday for our elementary school students because we have parent-teacher conferences. So that starts tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, ends at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And then they come back bright and early Friday morning, 8 o'clock to 3. On Friday, so our elementary students, they don't come back to school until,
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
yeah,
It's a week and a
like
half.
11 days or something like that. Oh, to be an elementary student again. It's fantastic, right? Professional development days, we have 2 of those coming up on Monday. We have a variety of topics for our teaching staff on Monday, everything from, value-added data, high-quality student data, report card data. I know it sounds so interesting to you. But we also have project-based learning that's going to be going on. The ESC of Lorain County, we have a consultant coming in doing project-based learning with our elective courses. And then over in the elementary school, so the state of Ohio has mandated that this year, elementary schools teachers must complete 18 hours of training on dyslexia. Those modules that were released by the Department of Education came out a week and a half ago, and again, the ESC of Lorain County is going to facilitate that training for us. That's going to not just be on Monday, but it's going to be the half days in December, the last week before we leave for break, as well as March 17th, as well as any other time we can squeeze in to try to complete that time. It's really difficult to do some of these state-mandated professional developments, but we're very fortunate to have consultants from ESCs to come in and do that, and to have the grant funding that pays for it, to be quite honest. So
That's just for the elementary school teachers?
that's just elementary this year, yep. Tuesday, we're going to switch to safety. We're going to have Mike Suey come in and talk about the food allergens that we need to be cognizantly aware of in the pre-K through 12 environment, as well as the Cuyahoga Heights Police are going to do a presentation for our entire staff on updates to school safety that we're going to then take to a district-wide safety drill. We're going to perform that drill over at the elementary school with the cooperation of Cuyahoga Heights, Brooklyn Heights, and Valley View. So our teaching staff, as well as our support staff, will get to, it's unfortunate we have to do this, but we have to do it, but we're going to experience what an active event would look like in an elementary school, where we have open classrooms and, just a little bit more open space over there. So it'll be a good experience for us, but it's not anything that, when I got into this back in 1995, that I thought we would ever be doing. So those are our professional development days. You are invited to lunch on that Monday. The board is, I get it, you guys are working, but I invited everybody to our staff meal. We're gonna do that day as well. And feel free to come to the safety training. We'll put you in a classroom if you're here, so just let me know.
With respect to the safety training, is that going to be when students are in session, or this?
Students are not in session.
Okay.
No,
As I
that's,
understand it, there's varying levels of the safety
Yep.
drills, so to speak?
Yeah.
And some involve students and some don't?
yeah, that's not a direction, we're currently
Oh,
ready to take. And we really rely upon the advice of our police department, as well as just having a pulse on what we believe is the right thing to do. I'm not saying that it's not necessary, but that's another conversation, right? When you start bringing students into it. It can be it's very traumatic for the adults to go through some of those things, even if it's just a simulation, because these kids become our kids, and then we have children of our own, that it really does hit home. So, but it's a necessary thing, because even though you can't necessarily guarantee prevention, anything that you can do to minimize any tragic event is beneficial for all of us. So I think that's all. Mr. Evans will be texting me soon saying you got to get off the mic and turn it back over to the board. So if there's anything else, I'm sure he will let you know. Otherwise, we got another meeting coming next month, and we can pick it up from there.
Well, thank you for the
Okay.
invitation to next week's PD luncheon, and I appreciate the overview on everything that you're doing for PD, but also the safety protocol or the safety program.
Yeah, absolutely. And happy Thanksgiving to all, because we won't get together again until after that fall break.
Well, thank you for those updates and comments. Moving on to agenda item 18, board policy review and adoption. That seems to follow in your
Yeah, it's still me. So
wheelhouse.
we went through this last month. This is the second reading. Over the last 2 weeks, I've gotten I've gotten a couple questions from staff members, you know, that I need to check into, but nothing that would change the policy at this time. And I've gotten nothing contrary from the board, so I would ask that those items be adopted at this time.
So with that background, may I have a motion to approve essentially the board's consent agenda items, which would be, in this case, agenda item 18, the board policies? May I have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Mr. Sujaki moves, I'll second. And Mr. Young, is there any additional supplemental conversation?
No, we only have, I believe, one or two more policies, and those Mr. Evans is speaking with legal counsel on, just to find out if we absolutely have to adopt them or to get some clarification on some of the language. So we've done an excellent job, and thank you for taking the time to go through these and keep us up to date with policy that's driven by, you know, legislation. So thank you.
Yep, and just for Ms. Decker's benefit, my understanding from when you did the overview last meeting, most of the revisions and changes are driven by some type of a change in federal or state law or something. It's not as though,
Absolutely.
Ad hoc, we're developing new policies and things.
Yeah, and Neola is the organization who updates our policies. They provide, every time a new set of policies are released, they provide a summary of what has changed within the policy, as well as providing reference back to what the legislation was that drove the change in the policy. The first thing we start with is, what does our current policy say? Because we believe, you know, most of our current policies are in line with the beliefs, the values, and the law that drive us. And so then we look to see if there was any need to change anything. Some language is just required. You know, they'll change a word or change a paragraph, and there's no option to choose. It's just based on new law. So that's our process, and I try to provide that to Mr. Evans in the Friday packets so that you have an opportunity to review those additional, you know, that additional information prior to the presentation.
Well, I do appreciate all the work and time and effort that you and the administrative team puts
Thank you.
into making certain that we have current amended and revised policies. So it's a tough job, and thanks for doing it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded, and unless there's any further questions or comments, we can move to a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Souchaki?
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins?
Aye.
Mrs. Decker?
Aye.
Ms. Prouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Etter?
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. We are now at agenda item 20, board committee discussion and comments. Is there anything that the group would like to share or discuss this evening? I have one item, but I'll wait until agenda items to cover that.
I have a minor item. I went to the Cauga Valley Career Center, Cauga Valley Chamber of Commerce, CVCC, two organizations with the same letters, drives me nuts. Luncheon this afternoon, and during the presentation, Mayor Mike talked about the Eagle Scouts in a very positive way, which is nice to hear. And also, they came up with that, the other CVCC, the Career Center, was part of a fundraiser. There's a house that is being raffled off, and I don't remember the do you, Matt, you're nodding your head like I know what you're talking about, but, but you don't. Okay. But anyhow, there's a house being raffled off, and I don't remember the cause that it's being done for, but Cauga Valley Career Center students were part of that effort to get that house completed, so. Those
Oh,
two
that's
things both
exciting.
came up at the chamber meeting this afternoon. So I thought I'd pass those along, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Etter, Ms. Prouse, anything this evening?
You have anything?
Yeah, I can just share the not as spicy recaps from the delegate assembly at the OSBA.
Yeah, we heard about that.
So we were at the Ohio School Board Association conference, and they have a delegate assembly, so, you know, the organization can lobby on behalf of school boards, and the platform decides what they can and can't lobby about. So the delegate assembly votes every year. So there's a lot of arguing about the rules, which took up most of the time. It ended up going an hour past. It was supposed to be 2:30 to 5, and we got out of there at 6. So there weren't, in the end, any major changes. A lot of the changes were things like changing, you know, the proceeds from the lottery to the proceeds from the lottery and sports betting, right? To just like get it up to speed with law and regulation. Of the two that I think people were arguing about the most, about the legalization of marijuana did not pass, nor did the very vague language around parental right to know. But other than that, it was just a lot of arguing about the rules, which was exciting. But, yeah, no major changes, so.
Well, thank you for that service. I certainly appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Yes.
It's one of those kind of thankless jobs, but being
Most
a
of-
member of OSBA, we need to do that, let our voice be heard, and thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Ms. Decker, do you have anything to say?
Nothing
Okay.
new for me, but just. Can I say something?
Please.
I just wanted to say, I'm going to come with an attitude of gratitude as we approach the Thanksgiving season here. Just, first of all, I just enjoyed meeting our Students of the Month tonight, and always so happy to hear, like, this common characteristic of kindness and generosity among our students. And I'd like to also publicly say what a great teacher Mrs. Curry is, and being our staff spotlight. My children, although it was many years ago now, did have her for their science teacher and remember her
Yeah.
fondly. There's also thanks to our district for allowing us to go to the Capitol Conference, at which the highlight, I thought, was our students, our 4 students that were there that highlighted the student achievement of safety and what they learned during our safety week here. And they were well-versed, and they gave a great presentation, and I just wanted to make sure that people knew that. And I guess the greatest thankfulness and gratefulness right now, I think, needs to go to our staff and our administrators, because right now, a lot of people are being called on to do extra work for different reasons. And I just wanted to say that that is not going unnoticed, and that we do appreciate you.
Well said.
Mayor, did we have 2 groups of students go down to the Capitol Conference?
No, we only had the one, but there were 5 students. I think one was meandering at that point.
Okay. All right, yeah, that's great. It's great to have student representation down there at the state level, and that's something that's become a Cuyahoga Heights staple, is to have students down there, and we need to continue to do that, Mr. Dtre, because it really represents our school, our students on a state level, that we've become known, not just for academics, but also for our amazing people, so.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, thank
I mean,
you.
last year, we were fortunate to have our Scarlet Angels down there, and then this year, this fine group of 7th graders. So it was nice to see, the diversity that we have here, academics and also the arts, that, they're flourishing here as well.
Very good. Thank you, Mrs. Etter. Thank you, Mr. Young, and thank you, Mr. Dtre, for bringing the students and Shep, for bringing the students to the Student Achievement Fair. It was really nice to see some familiar faces in Columbus, so thank you. One of the takeaways that I had from after attending the Capitol Conference this year is kind of renewal in the reasons why I've chosen to do this work. And it's just very refreshing to see so many people committed to education, and not even parenthetically, but primarily, principally, who are acting in and trying to ensure that all students receive a great or an outstanding public education. And I just can't help but come away from those meetings with a deep appreciation for so many people that are involved in that common mission. Along those lines, something occurred to me, and I think I've spoken kind of informally with some of the board members already, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Ms. Decker about it, but there has been, in a number of the sessions I was in, there was a number of conversations or through lines that revolved around the idea of board retreats. And before you pack your bags and start heading to Florida, a retreat in this instance basically means kind of a Saturday morning at CHS or at maybe the ESC's conference room, so to lower the expectations. But I thought with a new board member having joined us,
Sorry.
a little bit of humor, it's okay. So I thought maybe with a new board member having just joined us, that maybe the board would want to consider having a retreat or a special meeting, if you want to call it that, on what usually ends up being a Saturday morning here at the school, or perhaps we could get a conference room at the ESC in Independence. I am kind of envisioning maybe, if this happens, maybe sometime in the early to late winter of next year, and this would be subject to, among other things, who would serve as the representative of the president and vice president officers of this board next term or next year. And I don't know how that's going to play out. But I just thought that what I would ask the board tonight is to consider the idea of a retreat, whether you see value in it as a group of 5, and if you're interested, if you would like to try and pencil something in for as I say, the early to late winter of 2023. We have one more meeting remaining, so I guess what I'd like to do is table this further discussion, unless people want to talk about it this evening, and hope that in a meeting from now in December, that people have had a chance to reflect on it, and if they have thoughts or views, to let us know, let the 5 of us know their thoughts as to whether they'd be willing or interested in a retreat. Now, Mr. Young, you previously worked for the ESC of Summit County.
Right.
And I believe you've had some experience with leadership initiatives across multiple districts. And so if you have any thoughts on retreats as
Yeah.
a general matter, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for ESCs to have leadership subsets within the ESC to provide those services. You know, you have finding leaders with Northeast Ohio ESC, you have lifting leaders at Summit ESC, and I'm sure ESC of the Western Reserve and ESC of Lorraine County have something similar, but those are the 2 big ones in Summit County and Cuyahoga County. And among those services, whether it's strategic planning, assisting with hiring a superintendent or a treasurer, they can also help with board retreats as well. And I think it's an important service because it allows you to kind of get on the same page with what your values are as a Board of Education, kind of defining your North Star. And all of the decisions and all the discussions that you have, you know, would always, and the decisions would point to what those values are, especially representing the 3 voting communities here. I think that's important, that especially with a new board member, that we know what our core values are and our guiding expectations. There's nothing wrong with that, as well as self-reflection as to how do we perceive ourselves, how do others perceive us, so that you have that self-awareness and social awareness too as a singular unit. Even though you're 5 individuals, you don't operate as 5 individuals. You operate as a singular unit, bringing together not just the 3 voting communities, but also our tuition communities. So I can see value in it, and it's always great to have people who have served in those positions. They're usually older than I am, who have had that long-term experience, but they're very good at what they do and bring an objective process to it so that you get the work done efficiently but effectively. So there are options out there for that.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just say, just as a little bit of further background, in my 6 years on the board, I believe I participated in one retreat. It was here on a Saturday morning, and there was definitely value in it. But again, with a kind of a reconstituted board, I thought that I'd put it out there and see what the people think. And I realize that it's a further demand on our working board members' times and schedules, so I don't make this suggestion lightly or without regard to your personal schedules and your personal lives. And I probably wouldn't have even made the suggestion or the observation if I didn't think that we as a group would benefit from it. So I'll put it out there and chew on it, and let's talk about it next month, if you don't mind, unless you want to talk about this evening.
I think it's a good idea.
I mean, I remember the retreat we did. It was shortly after I was on the board, first started on the board too.
Okay.
And I think maybe COVID got in the middle of all that.
Right.
So that's probably why it hasn't happened since,
Okay.
I'm thinking, yeah.
Okay, well, if the group is in favor of it, I think we would benefit greatly from it. And it's probably not too early to start planning, because scheduling and agenda and things like that need to be worked out so that we can have as productive a session as possible. But I, again, didn't want to get ahead of the group and make assumptions that aren't valid. So, again, for everybody else, Mr.
That's
Strachey?
fine.
Okay, so
That's
you
good.
are approving of it, okay. Well, then, what I'll do then, again, I don't know who the officers will be next year, but what I'll do then is kind of work with the understanding that the group does want to pursue this, and as I can kind of put together an agenda and perhaps locate a suitable facilitator, I'll share that with the group, and we can kind of move it forward. Okay, well, thank you, everyone, I do appreciate it. That's the only other comment I had this evening. Does anyone else have anything else? And of course, Capitol Conference was just outstanding, at least for me it was. Are there any other agenda items that the group wants to discuss this evening? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to agenda item 22, informational items. It should be noted that the Board of Education members received their agenda several days prior to the actual meeting. Thus, they've had considerable opportunity to study it, ask questions, etc. 22B, upcoming regular meetings. An upcoming regular board meeting is December 7th, 2022. It's a work session, so we'll start at 6 p.m. And then the organizational meeting, at which we'll do a lot of business that carries forward throughout the calendar year 2023, including electing officers. That will be January 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And unless there's any further comments?
Then we're going to have it kind of like the double meeting that night, where we adjourn the one meeting and go right into a regular board meeting? I mean, it's all one meeting essentially.
Yeah, I mean.
But there's that formality that,
Right, and I think that at one time there was a question about compensation.
Yeah.
I am not trying to get extra
no, I'm
compensation
not
for
trying
the same
either, but
meeting.
I
So
just want to make sure we follow the state guidelines, whatever they are, and I don't recall what you're supposed to do.
do we need to notice that, or we good on that?
We do need to notice it. If I remember, everything can be taken care of in the organizational.
Okay, so you just have an organizational meeting that continues to a regular board meeting. Okay.
Oh, okay, just same, okay, great. Now, do we still need to notice that, or has that been out of there? We need to notice it?
Yep, and I'll send it out too.
Okay, so if, and Ms. Decker, unfortunately, you're kind of coming into the tail end of this thing, but we're going to have an organizational meeting on January 11th. I hope that you'll be able to attend. And then Mr. Evans had circulated previously a draft board meeting and agenda review calendar that we can get to you ASAP, so that you have a chance to review, and if there's any schedule conflicts, let him or me or the other board members know. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, and unless there's any further business, I'll make a motion to adjourn. May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Prouse seconds. I don't think I'm going to have much discussion, so let's move to a roll call vote.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Ms. Prowse.
Aye.
Mrs. Decker.
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. It is 8:28 p.m., and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I was looking to see if I had an extra. I don't. I have two of 2020.